If someone told me a year ago that I'd be charging tolls on my own driveway, I would have laughed and offered them a beer. But here I am, sitting on my porch with a cigar and a cash box, watching HOA board members pay $5 a head to access the road they tried to fence off from my ranch. Let me back up. Chapter 1: The Land and the Legacy. I own a 120-acre ranch in a semi-rural area on the outskirts of a rapidly expanding suburban community in Texas. This land has been in my family for generations. My great-grandfather settled here in the early 1900s with nothing but a mule, a rifle, and a vision. My grandfather made it work with cattle and hay. My father modernized it with irrigation, fencing, and machinery. Now it's my turn. We've lived a simple, honest life: early mornings, hard work, community dinners, rodeos, and bonfires. We were always far enough from town that we were mostly left alone. The gravel road cutting through our property was used by locals and connected two highways, a vital access path for delivery trucks, neighbors, and emergency services alike. That was until the developers came. Chapter 2: The HOA Moves In. About 2 years ago, a new housing development popped up on the west side of my property. The first time I heard the term Highland Ridge Estates, it sounded like a golf course, but it was a housing subdivision, all stucco homes and identical mailboxes. The people who moved in weren't bad folks necessarily, but they were different. City folks. They brought their city problems with them. Complaints started rolling in. Cows mooing at night, the smell of manure, the dust from our gravel roads. One guy even complained that the sunrise was too bright. No kidding. Then they formed an HOA. A few months after the subdivision was completed, the Highland Ridge HOA was officially formed. Suddenly, a group of people who had lived in the area for less than 6 months were dictating what was acceptable in the community, including land they didn't own. Chapter 3: The Fence Goes Up. The flashpoint came when the HOA erected a locked metal gate at the end of the gravel road, right where it entered my ranch. No warning, no negotiation, just a shiny new gate, keypad-controlled, bolted to steel posts set in concrete. I had cattle trucks that couldn't get in. My hay supplier had to turn around. Friends had to drive 30 minutes out of their way to reach us. At first I thought it was a mistake, then I got the letter. It was worded politely, almost too politely. In order to preserve the privacy and safety of our residents, Highland Ridge Estates will be implementing restricted access on shared thoroughfares. They offered me a single keycard and instructions on how to request more, subject to board approval. I was livid. That road had been in use for over 70 years. It was part of a recorded easement that my grandfather filed with the county in 1968. This wasn't a shared thoroughfare. This was my land. Chapter 4: The sit-down. I invited the HOA board over for coffee. I figured we could talk it through. They arrived in 3 black SUVs, stepping out in business casual like they were visiting a construction site they owned. We met at my barn, where I had set up a table with coffee, documents, and photocopies of the original easement. I made it clear. The road was mine. The easement granted my family full access. Their gate was illegal. They didn't agree. One of them, an attorney named Charles, smugly quoted county zoning codes and claimed recent changes superseded old easements. So I handed him a binder with maps, photos, legal documents, and the county stamp on every single one. "You want to take this to court? Be my guest," I said. "But while you waste your money, you're still blocking access to my land." They asked for time to review. I gave them a week. Chapter 5: The Toll Booth. 7 days came and went. The gate stayed up, so I got creative. I didn't block the road. I didn't tear down their gate. I simply put up a toll booth on my side. It started with a hand-painted sign: "Private Ranch Road, toll required for passage. $5 per vehicle, no exceptions." I installed a drop box, a camera, and even put up a QR code to my Venmo account. I stationed my cousin Blake at the booth with a lawn chair and an ice chest. He kept a detailed ledger and handed out paper receipts. If someone didn't pay, he marked it down. At first, the HOA thought I was bluffing. Then came the invoices. I mailed the HOA a bill for 2 weeks of tolls, $475. I included time-stamped camera footage and a summary of every vehicle that passed through. They didn't pay. Chapter 6. The battle heats up. That's when the real drama started. I got a cease and desist letter from the HOA's attorney. They accused me of operating an unauthorized business, claimed I was extorting their residents. I responded with my own legal letter. I reiterated the easement rights, cited state land access laws, and included a statement from my lawyer stating that not only was the toll legal, it was a direct result of their illegal obstruction. Then came the press. A local journalist got wind of the standoff and wrote an article. Rancher tolls HOA for blocking his land. It went viral. The internet loved it. Social media lit up with memes of me in a cowboy hat, standing at a toll booth. I was interviewed on 2 radio shows and even got a call from a documentary filmmaker. It wasn't long before the pressure turned inward. Residents of Highland Ridge started attending HOA meetings in droves. They were angry they hadn't been consulted about the gate. Several demanded resignations. Others simply started paying the toll and chatting with Blake like old friends. Chapter 7. The courtroom. Eventually, the HOA sued. We went to court, and it turned into a spectacle. I showed up in boots and jeans. Their lawyer came armed with thick binders and condescension. But when we presented the original easement documents, the judge barely had to deliberate. "Mr. Dawson is within his rights," he said, adjusting his glasses. "The gate obstructs legal access. It is to be removed within 14 days. Case closed." Chapter 8. Victory and beyond the gate came down the next week, but I kept the toll booth. By that point, it had become something more than a protest. People stopped by just to chat. Kids left drawings in the donation box. Local ranchers offered support. One woman from the HOA brought me homemade cookies and apologized for the trouble. I changed the sign, "Friends of the Ranch Fund, donations welcome. All proceeds support local agriculture." We started using the funds for community projects, fixing fences, hosting open farm days, donating food to the local pantry. Blake kept manning the booth, now with a big sign reading Ranch Ambassador. Chapter 9. Lessons learned. Looking back, I don't blame the folks in the HOA completely. Most of them didn't know what they were getting into. They moved out here for peace and quiet. The board, however, tried to bring bureaucracy where it didn't belong. That's what I pushed back against. You don't mess with a man's access to his own land. It started with a fence, but it ended with a movement. Neighbors learned about land rights. HOA members learned about rural history. And I learned that sometimes the best way to fight back isn't through anger. It's through creativity, patience, and a well-placed toll booth. Now, when I sit on my porch with a cigar, I'm not watching enemies. I'm watching friends. Some drive by and wave. Others stop and chat, and every once in a while a new HOA board member drives through, drops $5 in the box, and tips their hat.